anyways, I'll just blab forever. So let me pull on our first author today, Anne Roman. I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. And here she comes. Hi,
Hi,
how are
how
you
are you?
doing? I'm
Good.
good. I'm good. So where are you right now?
I am in Georgia.
Oh,
I'm
you're
in
in
the
Georgia. Oh,
South.
and I think you're in the South, so it's hot there too,
Yes.
like it is here in Florida. So I
Yeah,
think
it's
there's a
getting
bit of
there.
a delay. Sorry, so I'm going to give a pause. I think just everyone, I think there's a delay, so we'll have to be pausing a little bit. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little warm. Like it's still like in that stage of where Georgia's not sure if it wants to actually go full blown summer yet and like blister all of us, or if it still wants to be kind of cold. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm in Georgia.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, how long have you been writing for? Like, how long have you been publishing?
Not long. I've actually been publishing, I want to say, just a little over 2 years now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so not that long compared to some, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
What made you start publishing? Like, so do you primarily write contemporary romance,
I
or
do,
do
yes,
you do?
yes, I do. I do primarily write contemporary romance. My favorite genre is actually paranormal romance. That's my
Oh,
go-to. Yes, I love and have loved forever paranormal romance. You can see my bookshelves are filled with it, but I do write
beautiful.
contemporary. Yes.
Yeah.
What started me was actually a fantasy romance author that's a good friend of mine and paranormal romance author that is a really good friend of mine. And we would talk and have discussions and chats about all sorts of topics. Um, Mostly because of my background, my degree and stuff. And so we would talk about all sorts of things, spies and government agencies and all sorts of stuff. And she said to me one day, Lauren, you should write a book on this stuff. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't write this stuff. But it got the ball rolling. And I was getting ready to turn 40, actually. And I thought, you know what would be a great bucket list thing to do just to like say that I did it was to write a book for my 40th birthday. How awesome would that be? And then one book turned into two books, and then two books turned into three books, and now I here I am almost 6 books later, still doing it.
That's
So
amazing. So would you, so I think I read in your bio that you typically write more fast-paced, more
yeah, hmm
action, right? And that's because
yeah,
of your background?
I think so. Yeah, and I think it's also the way I like to read. I like to write books that I want to read, and I like to read really fast paced, like turn the page kind of books where you're like, what's going to happen
Right.
next? And
Yeah.
every chapter is kind of like almost a little bitty cliffhanger leading you up to the next thing, and so I think that just carried over from that, and that's why I like to write fast paced stuff.
I love books like that too. I love the page turn, I love to
Yeah,
start a book on a Sunday afternoon and like, not put it down.
yeah,
Just
exactly. That's what
finish
I
it
want to be
same
able to
day.
sit down and completely absorb myself in the story and get lost in it and then look up and go, oh my gosh, it's done. Like that's what I like to
Yeah.
read. So that's what I try to write, But yeah, that's it.
So I started reading Pretty When You Lie, right?
Yeah,
I
you
think
messaged
I
me
got
that.
that right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I started reading and I messaged you if you remember. I messaged you about
Yes.
it. So I started reading that a couple days ago. I downloaded the sample, and it's an MF, right? First person point of
Yes.
view.
Yep.
It's a second chance romance. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was reading, and so the first three chapters take place like I think 5 years ago, right?
Right.
And then in
Yep.
chapter
Starts off
four,
early.
it's present. So it's like your prologue, but it's kind of over three
Right.
chapters. And then chapter four started, and I was hooked on chapter four. I was laughing so hard with the mushrooms. I was like, I thought that was so
Oh,
funny. And all the drama in chapter four and five to the point where I messaged you and I was like, is there a spinoff? Like, do you have a spinoff in the
yeah.
pipeline? Like, I love this world. And you said you hear that a lot, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's probably one of the messages I get the most about are the mushroom chapter, is what I call it. And then when do we get to see more of Cage? That's like they want the story completed, Kate and Juniper, the main characters, they want to see that, but then they're always like, okay, but we really want to know about Cage. So Cage is coming. If you've read it, Cage is coming, I promise. But I have to finish Kate and Juniper first.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. So yeah, but I got to that and I was just like, oh, and I was like, is it weird if I message her? Like, is that weird? I'm just gonna do it. Is there a
No,
book out
no,
there
I
with
love it.
Cage?
No, I absolutely love it when people do that. And they just, especially if they're giving me the reactions or, if they're just find something interesting or funny or get the reaction that I want them to get out of it. I love it when when they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So what? So tell us a little bit about the book then. Right, Pretty When You Lie, and then what's the plan for the series?
So it is about obviously a boy and a girl, and their families kind of have this history of like basically it's almost Romeo and Juliet in a sense, where they just grew up, their families grew up enemies, hating each other, and the Cade finds out that Juniper ended up kind of betraying him and doing something that put his family at risk and ruined their dreams. And so, he's got this, anger that he harbors towards her. And in the meantime, there's a lot of dark underlying things going on with Juniper and her family where she wants to get away and needs to get away. And so she does, she leaves. And she had expected Cade to go with her and them to kind of go off together and start their life together. And then this, just totally upended her world. Um, and so because of the type of father her dad is, she knows that she can't like just go and just live her own life. She actually ends up going into hiding because of it. So that's where the story, the first three chapters are kind of establishing, like you said, like Cade and Juniper in the past, and they're young and they're immature. And then fast forward 5 years, now they've grown up. Now they each have separate histories. They have a whole life that they've lived, apart from each other. And now they're going to come back together and kind of re-meet and see what happens. So that's it.
That's awesome. And so, what are you planning to do in this world then? With what's down the pipeline?
So I have Pretty When You Lie is the first book. I have a
Right.
novella that actually brings in different characters, but you still see all the same characters in it. So it just kind of like as a little offshoot of it. And then Pretty in the Dark is the second book, and that's really going to explore the dark history of Juniper's family and her past, as well as Cade's, and kind of how like they became enemies and what happened really. And then also their relationship, can Cade forgive her for what happened and how her father treated him and the things that he had to go through? Because he went through some pretty bad stuff, because of her dad and because of her. And then also, you're going to see a lot more from Cage. Like he plays a very prominent role in this one because of, and I can't reveal it because it's just spoilers because of what happens at the
Yeah.
end of Pretty When You Lie. So, yeah. And then
Yeah.
obviously,
So
so there's going to be there will be three books. The second book is going to be kind of like the whole history and the backstory, and then the third book is going to be wrapping everything up.
right. Okay. Yeah. So like when I in chapter 4 or 5, when we first heard about Cage, and like he owns all these like bars and clubs, and he's like the head of the crime, and he's like you hear I'm like as soon
Yeah,
as I heard about, I was like, what?
yeah,
like
yeah,
I can't wait for that story. So I'm really excited about it. I'm super
yeah. I,
excited.
I
So
love Cage. I based Cage off of one of my favorite characters, which is I love the show Peaky Blinders, and so
oh yeah, yeah.
Cage to me is like the my Tommy Shelby. Like that is who he is to me. But he's not the main story yet. Like he will get his
Right, right.
story,
Of
but
course.
he's
Yes,
not
of
the main
course.
one yet.
Sorry.
Like this is all building up to who he is. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I just got so excited. So so you have other books too, right?
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
just this world. Okay. So
I,
tell us a little bit about some of your other books.
so I have the Dangerous Entanglement series, which that is actually a spy romance based off of that conversation I had with my friend, and it's my first series. It's kind of special to me for that reason.
Sure.
That is
Yeah.
about an FBI agent who she ends up finding out that her sister is not who she thinks she is. And there's a whole history that goes on there and things that are uncovered. There's kind of like some emotional and mental trauma and abuse in that one that has been suppressed, and that gets covered, over the series. But she meets a spy who is working with her sister, and they end up working together to try and find her sister's killer. So that's the story of that, and then they go on a journey, and I go all over the world with it. They're in Georgia, and then they're over in Austria, and then they're over like they go all over. So yeah, that was a fun one.
No, that's cool. So, and then you talked a little bit about your background. So, you want to say anything more about your background, about the whole, I mean,
Well,
I think it's
so
really
my
interesting when
degree,
you're like, because of my background, I wrote spy books. It's
yeah,
like,
well, so I have a degree
what's the
in
background?
intelligence studies. Yeah, I have a good degree in intelligence studies. So I love everything that kind of has to do with all of that, and I've studied it and researched it forever, and so I have my interest in that. My background is that I'm just a stay-at-home mom, but that
Oh,
was kind
yeah.
of where life took me. But in another world, in my fictional world, I would have like maybe been with like the CIA or NSA or something. So that's what I write
Right.
about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, and we had a couple questions on here,
Okay.
mainly trigger warnings. Do you have any trigger warnings on any of your books, and what are they?
Yeah. So I would say with Pretty When You Lie, there is like kind of hints of like not non-consent, but like she is a virgin in the first one, and then like there is mental and emotional abuse, especially from the father. There's violence, and um other than that, just yeah, they're spicy, especially Pretty When You Lie. That one is
Yeah.
spicy.
Or was spicy
um
fast?
yeah,
Fast.
it
Like
goes
I,
spicy
yeah, yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Fast,
The
you
first
know.
the first series is a little bit more of a slow burn, the Dangerous Entanglements ones. I do have to warn people that there is mention of a dog that was abused in that one, because people are always like, "Wait, I didn't know." I'm like, "It's not on screen. It's not on page. It's just talked about
Thank
that it
God.
happened."
I
So
don't do that.
yeah,
That.
yeah, I couldn't do it
Thank
either.
God.
I could not do it with
I
my
don't.
dogs, and yeah, that would break my heart. So, but no, but it sets it up for just kind of how crazy one of these characters is. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So
really it.
my husband has been trying to get me to watch John Wick forever,
Oh,
and I kept saying no
yeah,
because of the first movie,
the
and finally
dog.
I said yes.
Yes,
It still gets me upset, man. I get so
it
upset.
does.
So
I
it's just
can't
like,
do
I'm
it.
like, why did you have to do that in the movie? And the whole time they talk about it over and over and over again. But
But
I
I
know that's his
understand why he goes
vengeance.
a little. I understand why. Like, I get it because of that. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
understand why he does what he does. It's like, okay, yeah, that was the
Yeah.
final straw. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a big dog lover. I have four. So
I
yeah.
know. Yes. Yes.
Anyways, okay, so any
Love
other
it.
news, upcoming releases, or I guess we've already kind of covered all of
Um,
that, but
well, yeah, so I was gonna have Pretty in the Dark release this month. I think we talked about this too, where I like it is
yes.
ready, it is plotted. I have well over half of it written, and I just kept sitting down to it, and another book just kept coming up and coming up. And finally it was to the point where it was
Yep.
like the characters were intermingling and like this isn't even the same genre. Like this isn't working. So I had to like pull the trigger on basically just telling my readers, and they were so understanding, which I am so grateful for how understanding and the
Oh,
support that I got when I said, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, it's not going to make the deadline, and here's why." I just had to lay it out. So, but what I'm working on right now is actually going to be under a different pen name and a different genre altogether. So that's going to be
but
coming up hopefully this summer.
we can hear about it because we're broadcasting in the correct genre group, right?
That's true. That's true. Okay. Well, I guess I'll do it. I haven't revealed my pen
Okay.
name yet. I haven't done it
Well,
yet.
don't tell your
So
pen name, but if you want to say, well, okay, if you don't want to, if it's a big secret, that's fine. You could just say, I am writing this, like the
yeah.
genre.
So it's going to
Yeah.
be a Maleficent Sleeping Beauty retelling. Um, yeah, I'm really excited about it, and it's a challenge because it's going to be different than anything I've ever written before, but it's a genre. It's near and dear to my heart because that's one my absolute favorite movie, and also one of my favorite things to read ever is fantasy romance and paranormal romance. So I'm really excited about it.
That's exciting. That's where I started. I started reading urban fantasy. Actually, was the first thing I got into when I created the big group. It was a tiny group back then. It was only 15 people, and I started reading urban fantasy first, then paranormal romance next, and then romantasy next. And then I made the group all about that, and here we are today. So yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. It's like my
Sometimes you just got
roots.
to go with it. Yeah, but it's
Yeah, but
really
now I
cool
read.
because yeah, I
Right,
read
go ahead.
everything generally,
Me too.
and it's just nice to be able to see the difference. It's actually, I think, helping having writing in this new genre. It's actually, I think, going to improve on my writing in contemporary romance. because it is more challenging. There's a lot more you have to think about, a lot more stuff you have to, take into consideration. Whereas, when you're writing a contemporary, you can just pull in the normal everyday things that you see around your life. But in fantasy, you got to go, well, does that work? Does this make sense? You have to really, really sit there and think about it. So it's been a challenge, a fun challenge, and I can't wait to share it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear all about it when it's ready. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah.
okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to pull in Geneva, but hang around, stick around for the authors panel if you
Thank
can.
you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Bye.